Quick disclaimer, I feel like I just rambled and went on many tangents in this video, but you know what? It was a lot of fun to talk about because there's so much to talk about when it comes to retro versus modern gaming. So, as you watch this video, leave a comment down below of your take when it comes to modern and retro gaming. Whatever it is, let's get messy in the comments, and here's the video. You see a lot of talk online today, from myself included, how modern gaming is a lot of slop and retro gaming is just so much fun in the year 2026. And it's funny, I've seen some comments on some of my videos that's like, OP's discovering retro gaming for the first time, or like, OP talks about how awesome retro gaming is, but still buys modern games. And yeah, it gave me an idea for a video. I kind of just want to talk about this more. Like, it all starts with the question is, what is retro gaming? Because this isn't my first rodeo in a retro gaming. I've been gaming my entire life, and I've just kind of identified some cycles. The first time I feel like I got into retro gaming was back at the end of the GameCube PS2 era, and like right when I got my Xbox 360. I grew up on the N64, Game Boy, GameCube, PS2, and got an Xbox 360. So I think like right before the Xbox 360 came out, maybe that year, which was what, 2005, I wanted a Super Nintendo because I really wanted to play Mario RPG. This was at that time that was a retro game, and I was like, "What? There's a Mario RPG game, like this old school kind of like Final Fantasy like RPG game." I really wanted to play it, and I got a Super Nintendo off of eBay for like $30. It came with Super Mario World. Very different times back then, and so yeah, I had a lot of fun playing that game, and then. Also in the 360's lifetime, this might have been 2006, so that first year of the 360 coming out, I was playing 8th grade football. I swear I'd be the only person in the entire country coming home from football practice and playing Final Fantasy VII on PS1 using my PS2. But like, yeah, I had a PS2 and I was looking at old, PS1 games, legendary RPGs. Final Fantasy VII always came up, and like this used, like, it wasn't a used game store because I sold like DVDs and CDs also, but just like this used media store. I saw Final Fantasy VII for like $50, which at that time felt crazy because that was like the price of a full GameCube game. And I was like, but I like really wanted Final Fantasy VII. I was in a retro game vibe. But now in 2026, you see when people talk about retro games, Xbox 360 gets lumped into that. And heck, maybe even like Wii U's considered retro at this point. I'm not sure. People try to measure. It's like, oh, well, the Xbox 360 came out in 2005, so it's a 20-year-old console. Therefore, it's retro, like 20 years. And maybe, I mean, when did the Super Nintendo come out? 1991-ish? I don't know exactly. And so that was like 20 years old when I was getting into retro gaming. And so, yeah, it just makes me think that's like back when I was in high school, I was, again, still into retro stuff. Me and some of my buddies, we were just starting to drive, and one of the things that we were able to do, that we wanted to do with our freedom, now that we have driver's licenses, we were like, let's go to every retro game store that we know of in the area. And every store we have to pick up one game, and we called it the mass pickup. Like, we hyped this up. We're like, oh man, next Friday is the mass pickup. Like, let's go. And so like that was the thing that we wanted to pick up some just like old retro games, one game from each store. That was the rule. You have to go to a store, buy one game. It's the mass pickup because we were gonna mass pick up a whole bunch of stuff. There were some early YouTube videos back in that day. And just like this, a long unscripted one take video, people showing their games of their pickups and all that, all these retro games. So we're huge into retro games at that time. And like those people on like YouTube talking about retro games, Xbox 360, we were deep in the Xbox 360 life cycle there. Xbox 360 was modern gaming, and these people hated modern gaming, which was Xbox 360. It was just retro games were awesome, and retro games were fun. Modern games weren't anymore. And now, the same conversation, those Xbox 360 games are the same Xbox 360 games as they were back then when, they were considered modern gaming. And, the same conversation, modern versus retro gaming. Modern gaming sucks. That was Xbox 360. But now we're in 2026 and we're having that same conversation that's always happening, modern versus retro gaming. Except now Xbox 360 is lumped in with the retro game side of the thing. And people love Xbox 360 games. I've always liked Xbox 360 games back when it was modern, and now that it's retro, I still love Xbox 360 games. And so when I'm buying games, I still like retro games. Always been playing retro gaming. I never stopped. The flavor and the way I play it has changed a little bit. My parents divorced in 2013, and I moved out for college in 2012. So like I moved out and then I got divorced. So a lot of my old retro stuff, like my N64 games, my GameCube, PS2, that all got packed up, put in a storage. I was away in college. Then after that, I started a job, had an apartment, moved in with what was soon to be my wife. We had a small apartment. I didn't have room for like shelves, a whole bunch of stuff. And so, I was playing Switch. I got a Switch, got a PS4 and Xbox One. So I had the modern consoles. I didn't have the space to set up all like the retro stuff. And that stuff was in storage in boxes. It would have been a lot of effort and space to get that all out. I'm working like 60 hours. Wasn't really feeling like going through all of that. And I was definitely playing modern gaming, but at the time, it's like, the NES Classic, the Super NES Classic came out. Switch NSO came out. That started very slow, but now NSO, like if you're just trying to dabble into old games right now and more of like a casual gamer, I still think for $50 a year, NSO is an incredible way to do it. Especially if you invest and buy some of those official NSO controllers to get the feel of it. I would much rather buy the games outright. I like to own my stuff, but still, like, absolutely an incredible service, incredible value. Still, I'll stand by that. It's not the flavor I want to play today. I still really appreciate it. I got use out of it. I know, like when the Game Boy Advance came out, I think it was like 2023. I played Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. I played Minish Cap. Love those games. And I'm like on the Game Boy, like Wario Land 3, Mario Land 2, 6 gold coins. Yeah, I play a lot of retro games. I think when I got this house in 2020, uh, this basement wasn't finished, so that was something that didn't happen till like 2022. Like it wasn't really till I had like the space where I could be like, oh, I have room to, buy a bunch of like movies, and then like other places I have room to set up more consoles. Um, and so like everything was still packed up for a while until even now I don't have everything completely set up because a previous setup I had upstairs for that was gonna be more retro stuff. Now that I have kids, they want to like touch and see all that stuff, and they're not old enough for the game stuff, so that stuff's like not hooked up. I'm slowly migrating it down here. But one of the first things I did when I moved into this house was I set up my GameCube on. It was that TV actually. It was upstairs and played Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. And that was the first thing I did. I got those boxes back out of storage. 'Cause I had more space to put the boxes. Like I think they just went like under those stairs. And I took out the GameCube, played Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. And so like always playing retro games and stuff, along with modern stuff. And I think like when you're only playing the modern games, because there's good to have with modern games, don't get me wrong. There's such big experiences, and like I don't know, your first big open world game, whether it be Breath of the Wild, uh, Horizon Zero Dawn, I love that one. Even like maybe PS2 or not PS2, but PS4 Spider-Man Insomniac. That's pretty open world, a lot of similar to Spider-Man PS2, I suppose. But I don't know, whatever your big open world game is that like you fell in love with for the first time, it was great experience. But then you play another big open world game and another big open world game, and they become like that Ubisoft like checklist type of game, and they want and command 60 to 80 hours of your time, and it just feels like a big grind. When you play that over and over and over again, I feel like that's just like the equivalent of like just eating dessert over and over and over again. Like if all you did was eat dessert for dinner and nothing else, you'd get sick. And so if you play a big open world game and it's great, and then you immediately play another big open world game and it's great, or it could be good, but you get burnt out, you start feeling sick. And I mean, that's I'm still using open world, but that could be any big modern AAA game. And yeah, I'm playing a lot of analog 3D lately. Just like that's like kind of the new flavor of like retro gaming I'm doing. Actually playing like the cards. I really like the CRT filters. Playing it on this TV, and I don't know. It's painting a more clear picture of that like modern versus retro. Like sometimes I feel like with the PS5. So like when I got the PS5, it wasn't impressive of a jump from the PS4, and it was on that TV that's like dinky little 4K TV. It didn't feel that impressive of a jump. PS5 looks awesome on this old 77-inch OLED TV, and the Atmos sounds awesome with like the surround sound system and all that. But like this smaller 4K TV, like LED TV with just the TV speakers, it's not as impressive. So sometimes for me with like modern gaming, it's really just like hardware and stuff that can take advantage of like the theater system. And I'm almost like not necessarily sitting down playing a modern game, but I'm more just like using my theater setup, like sitting on this couch. I don't want to hook up the analog 3D and play N64 on this TV. I want to play it on this TV where I can roll this chair up, get really close point of view, kind of like, back in the day we were sitting really close to the TV playing a game. And I feel way more immersed when it comes to N64 doing it that way. And so now I'm over here and I have the big separation of like kind of modern gaming over here, retro gaming over here, but I still think about that cycle. So I'm over here playing N64. And not only am I revisiting the games that like I had growing up, I also have this urge to explore the library and what I missed out on the N64. And that's exciting to me right now. That's way more exciting to me than whatever's coming out on modern gaming. There's not many modern gaming releases that are coming out right now that excite me. Now, that said, so I'm having that cycle right now where I'm excited to explore N64 that I have not played. And now back then I was a kid. So all my N64 games that I'm nostalgic for, I'm very like thankful and lucky that my parents were able to get me those games, right? I wasn't working any jobs back then. I had money for N64 games. Or other games I'm nostalgic for that I don't own. I rented them from the video store or played them at a friend's house. But I don't own them and I would like to, revisit them now. And however long that's been, like 20, 30 years since N64, and I kind of feel the same way about GameCube, PS2, and Xbox 360. And again, Xbox 360 at one point was modern gaming. Now it's retro gaming. And I think even with modern gaming now, like with PS5, even though there's a lot of this open world slop going on that we are all feeling burnt out on, if I spend a year playing N64, nothing but N64, and then I jump and play a big open world game on PS5, I feel like I can condition and trick myself into seeing a generational leap versus playing PS4 and then jumping over to PS5, where you're playing PS4 for like 8 years and then you play PS5. It doesn't feel like a big generational leap, especially if you're playing on like a TV like this and you don't have like the big sound system or the big OLED TV to really take advantage of PS5. If you're playing on like a smaller TV and you go PS4 to PS5, it does not feel like a big jump at all. And so I think there's like, I hope the future gaming we get, 4K 60 games, but scoped more like GameCube, PS2 games in terms of length. Like, I don't really want so many 60 to 80 hour games anymore. I hope the industry course corrects itself and we can get back to 8 to 20 hour experiences where like 20 hours is really long, or actually 40 hours. Back then on the 360 days, like a JRPG was like 40 hours long. That felt long to me. I feel like a long game was like 20 hours long, and most games were like an 8-hour long experience. I hope we get back to that. But again, in 20 years, and the PS5 is 20 years old, are people going to be looking back and they're like, wow, like these games were huge back then. Like, I can't believe these games existed, these big 60, 80-hour open world games. Like, I hadn't played all of them. I hadn't played Ghost of Tsushima yet. Like, this game was incredible. I missed out on it. And now the difference between the PS5 and the N64 era is now I'm an adult with adult money. And that's one of the reasons why I still buy modern games. I don't buy everything day one full price. I do that if I want to play the game on day one. And that's very rare. That's pretty much like exclusive to like first party, like PlayStation or Nintendo games. Nintendo just doesn't really drop down in price. And when it looks at the collector market, I mean, I look back at like N64 games now and like Xbox 360 games back in the day when I did my mass pickup back in high school versus like prices now. It's like, I should have bought the games back then, or just like, we had player choice games where games were like $20 at like, Target, and now they're like $50. I'm looking at like Ultimate Spider-Man Player's Choice Editions, $50. I'm like, I know Player's Choice used to be a $20 game. Now it's $50. Like, only if I bought it back then, even if I wasn't going to play it, because now, 20 years later, I want to play it. And I feel like the same thing is going to happen with like PS5. It's just going to be part of the same cycle. So when I see like a Black Friday sale and there's games, like I'll stock up a little bit. I can't play all of them right now, but I'll seal the deal on that price because maybe later I'm going to want to explore the library and those games are going to be more expensive. People might just like, there's going to be a generation of people that are nostalgic for it, and they are big games. And yeah, if you sit and you play N64 or, PS1 or Sega Saturn, like these level early 3D games, and you just like immerse yourself into that for like a year or two. Like part of me really wants to do this. Maybe I'll do it someday. I'm still more of like still mixing type games, but like if you only played like N64 for a year or two and then you jump and play like Switch 2, I bet just the jump would just feel like overwhelming and incredible. And that sounds like such a fun thing to do. Like I do want to do that someday. Just kind of like gaslight myself into a generational leap. And yeah, like, and I guess one of the big problems with modern gaming is day one the games are broken, but like now it's like a lot of those games are now patched. Like if you look at old Xbox One games, which are like dirt cheap, and then you can play them on the new hardware, like an Xbox Series X or a PS5, and maybe the game used to be 30 frames per second, but now it's 60 frames per second and faster load times. Like these games are gonna get better over time. And yeah, I don't know, like maybe like other people think of retro gaming as just like wanting to get it like for free or something. And, maybe there's gonna be a PS5 emulator someday and then you can download all these games and then people are gonna love the games. It makes me think of like the people who always say like Nintendo's greedy and all that. Like, yeah, like the prices are high compared to like other Nintendo systems in the past. And like, yeah, no one wants $80 games. No one wants it. But like, when people are like really mad, like genuinely mad and call them like a greedy company, to me that just means like, okay, like you want to play these Nintendo games. Like you really want to play these Nintendo games, but like just like it's just out of your budget and like you're like frustrated that you can't play these games, but like you want to play these games. Because like yeah, I don't know, I look at like PlayStation. Like PlayStation's probably like if I had to pick like one console the whole generation, it's tough because I think Nintendo has the games, but like PS5 is like so boringly perfect of a console and nonstop. Like all they're doing is like releasing this really expensive hardware. Like they have like computer speakers and then coming out the computer monitor. Like if Nintendo dropped speakers and a monitor, oh, the backlash of their greed would be just out of this world, man. So I think that's fun and just like I don't know. That's like another reason why like I probably will get the PS6 is because like, again, I didn't have the money back then to buy like multiple GameCubes. I didn't have money back then to buy multiple 3DSs. Like now I'm getting back into 3DS because that was once like modern Nintendo was the Wii U and 3DS, and I didn't like modern Nintendo back then. And so I missed out on the 3DS library. And now it's like, man, I wish I had two 3DSs because the 3DS costs more than the Switch Lite now pre-owned, which some like other kids like grimy little hands. I don't really like pre-owned like systems or controllers that I have to like touch. Like a pre-owned game is fun because I don't have to touch it. But like a handheld, I don't love it that much. I'd rather get a fresh handheld. And so I'm not here out buying like multiple PS5s like at this time. And because like the PS5 is like basically also a backup PS4. So I have a PS4 and then a PS5. So it's like if my PS4 dies, I still have a PS5 where I can still play my PS4 games. So when the PS6 comes out, if that can also play PS4 and PS5 discs, then I'm way more like enticed to buy it just as simply as like another backup. Like I don't need to buy like all like the, PS6 games day one, but it's more backup hardware in case something fails. And then also just like I have a 4K movie collection. I now have two 4K players, like another one where I can move the PS5 up to a different room as just like another like 4K player, another place to play like my at least PS5 and PS4 games. That's cool for me. So that's why I probably still kind of buy like more hardware. Like the Switch 2 plays all the Switch 1 games. So I still have my Switch 1, like just having those backups. Like I wish I could have had backups like in the past. But the retro consoles, they'll fail over time. And so, yeah, that's why there's a bunch of different flavors for like retro and modern gaming. Like some people really want the original hardware, but if you get into that, there's a lot of hoops to jump through to get it looking good on these systems, on, modern TVs, or you have to have a huge CRT TV. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really want to buy a CRT TV because I can spend $300 on it and then it could just die in like 3 years. Like, the CRT TVs I growing up, those died. So then we had to get like new TVs. Like we only got rid of them because they died. And so like I'm just hesitant to buy like a used CRT TV because I don't know how much like how much mileage is on it. Like how many miles are on this thing, and then what? Like that's not gonna last me 30 years. Especially if I decide to really play it. So I do gear towards more like the modern stuff. That's why I really like the analog 3D. It upscales nicely to me, to my eye. I mean, everybody's eyes are different. There's levels to it. And then like even like on modern consoles, like let's say Switch, I'm gonna use Switch as an example, but these games are third party, so they're on PlayStation, Xbox, and Steam too. But all these collections. So you want to get into modern game or retro gaming, you can do it on modern systems. Like all the Mega Man games go on like steep sales for all these collections for like 750. So you can get like all 8 Mega Man X games for like $15. And then back then in high school, when I'd watch these YouTubers talking about retro games, like the Mega Man X games came up all the time, and I had to buy a Super Nintendo, and then like each game might have been like $10 or something, so that's like 8 games. But now I can get all the games for like $15, and yeah, it's on Switch. It might not have like the filters and all that, and some people like the quality of life stuff. I don't really like save states and rewind. I'd much rather raw dog my retro games. I want to play them the way they were intended to. But again, maybe that's like, I don't know, is that modern retro gaming, or is that like, or do people still consider that retro gaming? Because, yeah, I don't know. I look at even older games. I was looking at a thread on Reddit about Final Fantasy VII. How should I play the original Final Fantasy VII for the first time? I played it on PS1 on a PS2, and the PS1 version on a PS2. And this thread's like, oh, you have to get the Steam version so you can mod it and get these quality of life features. And I'm like, oh man, like that's not me. Like I want to raw dog it. I want to replay Final Fantasy VII on a PS1. Like I want to be like, oh my god, I want to just get to the save point. Like I don't want like save states. I want to like beat it the way it was just like intended and crafted and just that captured that period of time. And yeah, so uh it's just interesting to me like how many different flavors of retro gaming there are, and some of those flavors are only possible done in the modern era. And I also think it's interesting that as time goes on, I think of it like in Naruto. Like if you've watched Naruto, very early on in the show, they're like climbing up a tree and slicing a line into the tree, and to see how high they can go up to mark where they go up. And if someone stopped modern gaming in the Xbox 360 days, then their version and definition of retro gaming is everything before Xbox 360. So for the rest of our lives, they're just nostalgic and playing, N64, Super Nintendo, NES, Atari, ColecoVision, Sega CD, Sega Genesis, all that stuff, which is cool. That's good. But I feel like I always have been sticking with modern gaming too, because it's readily available. I can keep like buying the stuff, especially cheap when it's on sale for like $20, and not really have to think too much about the prices. But then just my line goes farther for nostalgic. So it's like I'm still playing PS5 and like Nintendo Switch 2 and all that. And if I stop now, like I've played enough of that where in 20 years I'm gonna get nostalgic for it again. And it's just like my library and just that feeling and that cycle of nostalgia keeps going. I don't play like modern like multiplayer anymore. I think I'm done forever with that, with season passes and like just daily challenges. Like I hate that kind of stuff. But like the single player games and all that. Yeah, I just think if you play too much modern, it's just like too much eating dessert. Like modern and retro are best when they're like together, because you can just keep missing out on some new experiences. It's kind of like the physical media with like DVD and Blu-ray. Like if you only watch stuff on physical media, you're missing out on some good shows that are only on streaming and are never going to come out on physical. And so there's some games on the modern era that are good. And I mean, heck, I think that even like on the Switch with those modern collections, like Castlevania and the Mega Man, and like Turtles, you can buy like a Switch or a PS5 even, and like if it's like $500 just for the access to the retro games. Like yeah, we can say the $50 a year for the NSO online, incredible value, but yeah, if you buy like a modern console, you just buy these collections of retro games for dirt cheap. Like you don't even have to buy a modern game. These shops have been open for like 10 years. There's so many collections out there of retro games that just like, if you just want to start getting into retro games for the first time, modern hardware is a great way to just get your foot in the door. And then your flavor and your taste can evolve over time. I know mine has, where now I'm like, oh, I really want the CRT filter. I want this setup. I want to get a retro tink for the upscaling. But until you get your eye for that, you can just start wherever. And yeah, I don't know. This video has been just all over the place, rambling of just some like pros and cons of modern versus retro. But what do you guys think? Like, what do you consider retro? Is it like a 20-year thing? Is it like, does it stop at the Xbox 360 era or the Xbox One era? Maybe I think that the Xbox One, where we started that digital, like full games digital. I know it kind of started on the Xbox 360, but like full games digital, the entire library on like, Xbox One and like PS4, and we still have those stores today. You can still, as long as it hasn't been delisted, still buy and download those games today. That's where I really feel like, for me personally, the modern era has started. But there's still good games that have come out in this era. Uh, like, yeah, some of my favorite games, like Spider-Man PS4, Horizon Zero Dawn, Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild. A lot of people love Breath of the Wild. I like it. Yeah, these games, like, you'd definitely be missing out on if you don't play modern games. But I don't know. I don't think you have to play just modern or just retro. I definitely play all of it. I play all the systems, but um, yeah, and I don't know. Maybe that's where the competition really comes from. There's no competition in the console wars, but yeah, more retro. Like, I don't know. I don't think people should be putting up with a lot of the garbage that's coming out with modern. Like, yeah, if I buy a remake or a remaster, it's more like I just want to play on that TV, that setup. But once I get like this setup better, when I see those remakes and remasters come out, I just want to be set up where I'd be like, okay, I'm hyped for this game. I'm just gonna go play the real thing and not wait 2 months for it to come out to pay like $40 to replay, when I could just play that version there, which is like what I really want to play. Um, but since I didn't have that set up, yeah, the remakes and the remasters can be cool, but they can also be broken, and yeah, I don't know. But it's gonna be interesting to see in 20 years if people do get nostalgic for PS5 games and the modern slop, because now it's retro. So there's just like this whole new wave of coolness and nostalgia for it. Um, yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think in the comments? I've been all over the place in the video, but whatever. Like, does this spark any? What thoughts does this spark in this conversation? Let me know down in the comments. If you made it this far, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Later.